Hi, I'm Shane Orr, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County. The League of Women Voters of Muscatine County is a nonpartisan organization. Our goal is that all eligible voters vote. We encourage informed participation in government, and we help voters understand major public policy issues. Today, I am joined by Jeff Poulter, who is a candidate for Iowa House District 95. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run this year.
Well, as you say, I'm Jeff Poulter. My wife and I live 2 miles north of Middletown, Iowa.
Okay.
I moved back to Iowa in late 2010. Spent a lot of time in Iowa. I spent almost 38 years. I was 5 months shy of 38 years with UPS. And all that I started in West Burlington, Iowa as a college student, loading trailers. And then was a driver there for 6 years, and ultimately went into management. And that took me to Mason City, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, and then out of the state to Atlanta, Georgia, Las Vegas, Nevada, Birmingham, Alabama. And then as I got close to the end of my career, I had oversight what they called the Midwest region. I was a part of the corporate HR group, a director of talent development. So I had like 22 states and an office in Chicago. Talked to UPS, ended up moving back to the Iowa area, and spent my last 5 years traveling with UPS. And I've been retired for 10 years, and I've been actively involved as a volunteer in the Burlington community. I am the live event coordinator with the Capitol Theater as a volunteer. I'm in my third term as on the board of directors at the Capitol Theater. But in 2022, when my wife and I voted, there was a choice of one, and we didn't even know who the individual was. We had landed in a new district because I went through redistricting. So my wife's like, well, who do I vote for? And I said, well, I don't know who this individual is. I guess we just won't vote this time, and for this position. And it just I found interest in that, so I started following my opponent, Taylor Collins, the incumbent. And in November of last year, I started kind of looking into it. I was visiting with the Democrat parties because District 95 is made up of 4 counties. It's the northern part of Des Moines County, northern part of Henry County, southern part of Muscatine County, and all of Louisa. And the answer kept being the same: we don't have a candidate. So I wasn't recruited. I made this decision on my own. In talking with my wife, I said, I think I'm going to run, but you have to be the first to sign my petition. And she said, I want no part of this, but I will sign. And I got the signatures, and now I'm a candidate for the Iowa House of Representatives.
Great. So what would you say are the top 3 issues facing the position?
There are a lot of issues. As a father and grandfather, and I'm at the age, I'm on the other side of the bell curve, and my focus and my values really are around the young people of Iowa, my grandchildren. I want to make sure they have a great future. So my values are really around education. I graduated from a small rural school district. I got a great education. It provided me with a future that I was successful in. And with the voucher system, I just think our public schools are under attack. And that is just in so many ways, whether it's area education agencies, the voucher program with public schools. And, that's probably my number one priority, is to make sure, it doesn't take, there's a lot of money in this education process now. And it's not impacting the schools within the 95th district, which are all rural schools, yet. But as money comes in, that's going to bring other opportunities for private schools, whether that's faith-based or, other type of education opportunities. You lose 30, 40 students out of a rural school district, it has going to have an adverse impact.
Yeah.
And communities lose their identity if they lose their school district. And that's really one of my biggest priorities. A woman's reproductive freedoms, they're under attack in Iowa. We have some of the strictest, restrictions in child care or child, pregnancy and abortion rights and things like that. And, I have 2 grandchildren that are on this earth because of IVF. I'm concerned about restrictions with that. I mean, they're lovely grandchildren. I'm glad we have them, but their parents wouldn't have children if it wasn't for that technology. And I don't want to see that go away in Iowa. So, and it impacts so much more than that. These new laws, these very restrictive laws that were just passed, it could impact women's health care in so many ways. Whether we have, female or doctors that deal in female medical issues in Muscatine and Burlington, it concerns me a lot. And as I'm out talking to people at county fairs and door to door and events, women are mad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's females come up to me and talk more than males, and they're definitely upset. So that's very, very critical. Mental health issues, and that encompasses so much. That's been under attack. Mount Pleasant used to have a mental health hospital. It seems like a lot of these people end up incarcerated now. I think we have to come up. We had a school shooting last year in Iowa and Perry. We don't want that to ever happen again. And some of that is around mental health. And teachers got to have, if they identify it, people got to act. And we got to get people assistance. And it just seems like there's less and less opportunities for people to seek out. Ultimately, it ends up with law enforcement. Maybe they're in a hospital, maybe they're incarcerated. Those are all important issues. Child care is another one.
Yeah.
In a rural area, it just seems like sometimes we live in a world where working families, mother and father both work. Finding good child care where your children are safe. Those are all very key issues to me.
Great. Do you think local elections, such as Board of Supervisors and that kind of thing, should return to nonpartisanship?
I think school boards, city elections. I know most of our county boards are partisan now, and I know there was talk in Des Moines last year about making school boards and city elections partisan. I don't. I'm against that.
Okay.
I think I would like to see, even county boards go back to nonpartisan. I grew up in a small town. Actually, in my 20s, I was mayor. I was on city council first, and then became village president, they called it. It wasn't actually a mayor's position. But we worked together.
Yeah.
You may not get everything you want, but you work together. From everything to make sure you had a ballpark for the kids, a city park with safe, slides and teeter-totters and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and it's, I hate to see, we live in a divided state, we live in a divided country. We don't need to make it any worse than what it is.
Sure. So we talked about the top 3 issues facing the position earlier. What about your priorities for the people and voters of Muscatine County? Do they differ from those at all? Or
Well,
are those
and
going to be your priorities?
The issues I talked about are key.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you talk about District 95 and Muscatine,
Yep.
southern part, a small portion of Muscatine County is in that. I really feel like a state representative serves the people first. I really don't feel like the incumbent, Taylor Collins, is doing that. Taylor's he just turned 30 years old. He was 28 when he was elected. In my opinion, he's already a career politician. He worked for Governor Reynolds. Even in Iowa State, he was head of the Young Republicans. Then he worked for Governor Reynolds. Then he worked for Speaker Grassley in the House. And then he came home and ran unopposed. I don't believe in career politicians. This wasn't on my bucket list of things to do. but I feel people deserve a choice. And I feel like as a state representative, your priority is your constituents first, not party leadership. So, District 95 is a rural agricultural community. You've got to focus on, corn prices are down. There's a glut of corn. You got to work with the people to fix the problem. In small towns, like Fruitland, Atalissa, small business owners, it's people willing to invest, entrepreneurs, to have small businesses in rural communities, small communities. We got to do everything we can to support them.
Right.
So, and that's throughout District 95. It's all small towns. The ones I mentioned in Muscatine, Wapello, Mediapolis, New London, Middletown, where I just live north of, you're not going to get big business. You're not going to get box stores. You got entrepreneurs with little business. We got to make sure, they survive.
Sure. So if elected, what would you do to create a more cohesive political and day-to-day environment for the county, the state, and the country?
Well, it would be an honor to serve District 95 in Des Moines. Right now, the Republican Party holds a supermajority. I've been up to Des Moines to the Capitol. It just, they're not even talking to the other side. Everything is their way or the highway. And November 5th, if I'm elected, can I go up there and make mass changes? No. But, if the voters of District 95 send me to Des Moines, they will send such a message that it'll be all heard all the way from Muscatine to Des Moines, loud and clear. I'm running a very Republican, red, conservative district. My values lean more conservative, middle of the road. There's things I don't like the direction we're going. Yeah. I will work across the aisle. I've told Democrat leadership, a good bill is a good bill. Republican, Democrat, Independent, good bill is a good bill. If it's good for the people of District 95, I'm going to vote for it. And so, it starts with that. You don't always get what you want, but you have to reach out, shake the hand of the other person, and try to build a coalition to work together. And it's not just what part. It just seems like we live in a government or political world where when you're elected, you just do what you're told. And the nice thing about gray whiskers, you really, I'm not in it for the long run. I'm in to make things happen. When I was a young man going up in the UPS world, sometimes, I had to bite my tongue and do what I was told. As I get older, you're going to do the right thing. I'm not in it to make a lot of money. I'm in it to make things better for the young people of Iowa.
Great. So is there anything in conclusion you'd like to tell us about yourself that maybe I didn't cover earlier?
I'm just, I'm a plain old guy. I don't consider myself, my wife and I, I've been booking bands at the Capitol Theater. I got the honor of being inducted in the Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple weekends ago, Labor Day weekend, which was very exciting as a fan of live music. And I'm not a musician. It was just promoting live music in Southeast Iowa they inducted me on. I'll work hard. That's one thing my father, my mother instilled in me. Go to work and work hard. And I've tried to instill that in my kids. You may not be the smartest, but you can never let people outwork you. Stay in the game, stay involved, and that's what I'll do for the voters. If the voters send me to Des Moines, I will come back and work hard. I will stay in touch with them. I will be available to them, as I've done in everything else in the endeavors I've had in life.
Great. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today and answering some questions.
It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Shane Orr, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization with the goal that every eligible voter votes. We encourage informed participation in government, and we help voters understand major public policy issues. Today, I am joined by Kim Schneider, welcome, who is a candidate for Muscatine County Board of Supervisors, District 3.
Yeah.
So, Kim, tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run this year.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of rural Muscatine.
Mhm.
I've been involved in agriculture my whole life, fourth generation on our family farm. I have 3 grown children, 2 of which live in Muscatine and 1 who ranches in Oklahoma. 2 grandchildren, 1 going to school in Muscatine, 1 not in school yet. I taught for 31 years in the Muscatine School District. Currently, I'm retired and selling real estate part-time, so I'm retired from teaching, but not retired. I was then elected to school board, so I'm currently on the Muscatine School Board as well. I've also served on the Muscatine County Extension Board, Flickinger Learning Center, several other boards and committees throughout the community. I've been a 4-H leader, a foster parent, helped with Big Brothers Big Sisters, Sunday school teacher, and just volunteered, a youth coach, volunteered in several different aspects of the community. I like to try to stay involved in the community, and the youth is obviously my emphasis. I decided to run for County Board of Supervisors in this election after considering it. I've thought about it for several years, but since I'm retired, it seemed like a good time. I was approached by several people in my neighborhood and people that I know in the community, and I just felt it was a good time in my life to give back to the community and try to make Muscatine even better with my input, help it grow, prosper. I think it's a great place to raise a family and retire, and would like to get more people here and aware of all of our resources and how the vast resources we have. And I think we need to communicate those resources and also just improve upon, there's always room for improvement, I guess.
Yeah.
So that kind of covers that.
Great, great. So, what would you say are the top 3 issues facing that position?
This was a tough one for me. I think there's lots of issues. Housing initiatives, I think, is a very important thing. I think we need to find housing for all members of our community, all income levels. When I was in the school district, I worked with the at-risk population quite a bit, so I kind of had feet on the ground trying to help people find housing, and I know it's a problem in Muscatine, so I would like to help that. I think there's a cultural barrier sometimes with housing. I think we could maybe broach that. I just look into all the different aspects of housing and get people into our community to discover how great it is, and then hopefully stick around, stay, contribute to our community, and make it better. I think another topic that's important for the board right now is to, maintain, retain good county employees and work with them. I feel a little, I've had some conversations with county employees, and I think there's a little bit of unsettledness, and we have to appreciate the good ones and keep them. I'm a true believer of people with skin in the game are the people we need to talk to and learn from, and they're a great resource. And if they're not happy, it works its way up. And I just think that's very important, to work with people and respect them and show appreciation for what they are doing, because I think we have wonderful county services. I think I've lived with the sheriff's department in the country. I've always dealt with that sort of thing, and I just think it's important that we keep that on a positive level. Another thing would be mental health, which also, with my experience in the school system, I think we need to examine what we can do to help in that area. I think it's obviously kind of a crisis across the country, but if we can start here, that would be the best, I think. And then I guess that's 3, but I have a couple. Emergency medical services. I know there's some initiatives, or not initiatives, but some things coming out, some conversations about that. I think that's of great importance, that we get quick services to everybody in the county, not just within. So there's going to have to be some communication and some work within and amongst all the different services, and I think that's coming up on the agenda for the Board of Supervisors. And obviously, being fiscally responsible. I mean, taxpayers' money is a big deal. I mean, people work hard for that, and I think we need to be responsible with how we spend it.
Great, great. What is your position on should local elections like County Board of Supervisors and such be nonpartisan, or should it return to nonpartisanship?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I've said that from the beginning. I was really kind of surprised when I ran for school board that it was considered a partisan. I think at the community level, we should be doing the best we can for our whole community and county, and the goal should maybe be more to, not maybe, should be to bring everybody together for what's best for our county and not draw hard lines in the sand and try to, say who's on whose side. We should all be on the same side. Having said that, I think parties are important. It's the way our system works. But I do think at the local level, it's not as important to cross, say, oh, well, you can't do this because you are of one party or the other. I think it's more beneficial to bring all the parties together
Sure.
and work for a common goal of making Muscatine County the best it can be. I've always been a person that's voted for the person and not the party, which I think is really important, and I hope people do that with me. I don't, with my background, I'm obviously a conservative person, but I feel like I can have a good perspective and can cross party lines without making any kind of enemies, I guess would be the word. I don't know. I'm not really a politician, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I think the party lines have created a lot of unrest in our country, and I would like to see at the local level at least that I don't want to say are above that, but can work with that and bring people together for what's best for here and just be better for our local community.
Okay. Okay. So we talked earlier about some of the issues that you say are facing the position. What about your priorities? Do those align with those issues, or do you have other priorities?
They do. I have some other things too. I think the county fair is very important, and I feel like we have a fair board right now, and the community, it's kind of building back up, which I would love to see. I've been involved, actually, the county fair, I turned 60 this year, and I've gone to the county fair every year but this year. So, I mean, it's an important part of my life, and I think it's an important part of the agriculture community, and also just bringing that wisdom and that way of life and to the whole county. It's just a plus. So I would definitely want to support the county fair. Agriculture and conservation, I think, are of great importance. That encompasses a broad range of things, from zoning to infrastructure to wildlife habitat. There's just a ton of things there, but I think they're all important, and I don't think we should lose sight of what we need to keep the county moving forward, but not keeping it balanced, I guess. Life is a balance. So I think trying to find that balance in the county, and then, like I said, the county county employees, infrastructure. I think we're really lucky in Muscatine County. I've been to counties in Illinois, and obviously everyone has, but I think our roads are well taken care of, well maintained. I think our engineer does a good job. We've got county employees that care, and any interaction I've ever had with them has been positive. So I'd like to keep that on that path and keep people happy and keep things. Seems like there's a pretty good schedule of 2 years out. We do this, and a long range plan, which is important. So infrastructure as well, and then county employees and housing initiatives. I kind of mesh housing initiatives with mental health, which they are two separate issues, but I think that's more of a community personal thing that we need to work on.
Okay. Okay. If elected, what would you do to create a more cohesive political or day-to-day environment for the county, the state, or even the country?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're lacking at every level, maybe, I have nothing against the board now. I don't mean that personally. I just mean everybody's just so quick to judge and quick to believe everything they hear. I think we need to, I'm a firm believer in communication, but that it's a two-way street, that you have to listen a lot more sometimes. You learn a lot more from listening than talking. So I hope that I would bring to the position good communication skills. I would be willing to investigate things, not necessarily act on things if I'm not sure. Say I'm not sure and look into it. I'm not afraid to ask tough questions. It's been a little tougher than I thought it would be on the school board asking tough questions, but I think you have to be willing to do that. Listening to your constituents, your employees. I just think trying to find a way to bring everybody to the same page. You're not always going to agree with everybody, obviously, but to justify what you do and have a look at all the perspectives, the big picture, and try to bring that to the table. I also think just being present and available. I'm willing to, my phone number's out there. I'm open to conversations with anyone, pretty much at any time. but I guess that communication would be the big thing I think is lacking, two-way communication.
Right.
So.
Okay. In conclusion, is there anything that you'd like to tell us about yourself that maybe wasn't covered in one of the prior questions?
I guess I'm back to my teaching experience and my classroom experience. I'm familiar and connected with numerous cultures and groups and stuff within the community. I've had board experience. I'm a pretty honest person, sometimes maybe too honest. I lay it out there, but I do feel like I'm good at looking at the whole picture and trying to get all perspectives and all angles looked at. I'm very approachable. And I guess I said I'm not afraid to ask the tough questions. If I don't know something, I'll say I don't know and I need to learn, but I don't, if I'm not comfortable with making a vote or saying I know something at that time, I will be honest and say, I think this needs to be looked into a little more. Along with that line, I'm not a rubber stamp person. Just because it comes across the table, it doesn't mean it's the right thing for everybody and it needs to be looked into. I guess, again, the thing I think I hope to do if and when I'm elected would be to communicate with the public and the rest of the board and leaders in our community and groups in our community, because I think there's so many things out there that we're not tapping into as much as we could. So just trying to bring it all together to make it a great place to be. And I also, I guess as a female involved in the community and former educator, I'm a landowner in the country. I feel like I'd bring a diverse outlook to the board. So that's my goal.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for taking time to answer some questions today. I really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shane Orr. I'm here representing the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County. League of Women Voters of Muscatine County is a nonpartisan organization. Our goal is that every eligible voter votes. We encourage informed participation in government, and we help voters understand major public policy issues. I am joined today by Nathan Mather, a incumbent candidate for the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors, District 4.
Yep.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run for the seat you have in the 2024 election.
Sure. Well, I'm a Muscatine native. I was born here, raised here. My dad was an eye doctor, Dr. Mather at Vision Center. My mom was a high school librarian. I went to college and law school out east, but returned in 2009. I'm married to a local Muscatine native as well. We got 3 great kids. So I'm a lawyer downtown. I think you're actually upstairs from me in the office there. So
Yeah.
we could have saved ourselves a trip maybe. But, I believe heavily in giving back. I served 2 terms on the local school board. Been through 2 terms now as a county supervisor, looking for my 3rd. And, just think that there's a lot of good that can be done out there. People need to step up and do it. I mean, that's kind of the basis of our country, is that it's run by the people. And so I'm just one of the people trying to do my part. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
Great. So what are your top 3 issues, or what are the top 3 issues facing the position you're running for? How would you address them and resolve those individual issues?
Sure. So, and I know there's a question later about what are the top issues facing voters. So I think it's important. There's some overlap, of course, but to distinguish, there are some real challenges facing the county government and the Board of Supervisors. Some of those are issues of voters, but one of them, I think, is helping to catalyze and grow the housing initiative. Yeah. We've been, the last couple of years, really looking at housing. We've seen that after performing a study, there's something like, I want to say 2,000 to 3,000 housing unit deficit that we'd really need if we're going to provide the kind of quality housing or have it. So we've been working together with public and private partnerships on that, and we've got we set a 10-year goal, which may be ambitious, but to remedy that 3,000 deficit in the next 10 years. So that's a big one. I would say personnel transition at the county. We've got so many great people there. Unfortunately, like everybody, they're getting older, and a few of them are looking to retire in the near future, which is great for them, not so great for the county. So we're going to have to manage personnel transition, find new folks. And then also we are really, I think, focusing now on doing long-range planning as to what the county should be doing. We focused a lot on capital projects, how we can streamline our physical plant, but also make it more effective. We're doing some land use planning because, I mean, that's always a challenge. The conflict of agriculture versus rural versus industrial, commercial, residential. And of course, doing all this while trying to keep your property taxes down. You know, there's been inflation. People want to be paid to compensate for that inflation, but that also means people would have to pay more property tax. So it's not an easy set of challenges, but it is one that I think are important that we address.
Great, great. Should local elections like school board, city council, and board of supervisor races return to nonpartisanship? And if so, how might that occur?
Well, school and city already are nonpartisan.
Yep.
Board of Supervisors is really the only local partisan election.
Yep.
I don't think it's a big deal. And the reason I say that is not because the parties and whether people are partisan is a big deal, but because we live with each other. We see each other at the grocery store, at soccer games, what have you. And so we don't have that kind of hatred and division you see at the federal level. You know, we don't have to worry about keyboard warriors and people just attacking one another. So partisanship, I don't see as an issue. I haven't seen any problems on the Board of Supervisors. You know, we happen to be all Republican now. That's just, you know, how the voting has gone, but we've had Democrats in the past. And the local elections within the city and schools, the trick seems to be to find enough people to run, not to change things in a way to exclude anybody. So, you know, my belief is that if it's not broken, don't fix it. And when you do, government action always has unintended consequences. So if it's working, let's just hold off and keep rolling the way we have been.
Great, great. So we talked about the issues that the position faces. What are your top 3 or 3 to 5 priorities for the people and the voters of Muscatine?
Sure. Well, so I mentioned housing, which absolutely is crucial. One thing I think that we're all going to have to deal with is adapting to kind of the post-COVID and even the post-baby boomer economy. You know, obviously COVID changed everything permanently. But right now, I read somewhere that over half the baby boomers have now gone into retirement. And of course, that being a much larger generation than some of the others, we're starting to see shortages of workers. We're starting to see, you know, help wanted signs everywhere you go. Signs say, please be patient with us. We're short-staffed. Heck, in my own law firm, you know, we've been trying to find another lawyer to come to Muscatine for quite a while. And it's just not easy. So we're going to have to adjust to a new normal, I think, where things cost more, where it's harder to get good people to come to work, not because they're lazy or anything like that. There just aren't as many of them anymore. So that's a real challenge. Another thing that we're addressing is preserving and even expanding access to quality mental and physical health care. That's been something I've been directly involved with on the board. That's something that is a huge problem. And, you know, of course, drug use and the fentanyl crisis has impacted us. But in so many of those situations, you see what we call co-occurring morbidities, which means someone's using drugs, but they have an undiagnosed mental health issue. And if we can take care of the one, it's much easier to help them out with the other. So, you know, expanding the access we have to healthcare is huge. You know, we've been working to participating with the improvements at the local hospital, trying to promote recruitment of doctors, bringing in things like telehealth mental services, which are good. They're not great. They're not perfect. But we're working on that problem. And it's one that has to be tackled by all stakeholders. And I guess finally, and this is less a school or a county issue, but access to quality education. You know, one of the things I've done personally, I was a founding member of the Muscatine Christian Academy, not because I've got any great educational chops, but you know, I could use my lawyer skills to help them set things up. And you know, they are you know, providing I think a good education to folks who maybe weren't in the local schools, because the local schools have a lot of folks who just don't go for various reasons. They go to other cities or they're homeschooled. So helping provide options for those folks too, not to compete with the schools system here, but to augment the educational opportunities that we have, I think is very important. So I guess, there's always more issues we can talk about, but I'd say those are the big 3 or 4 that we really, really need to address as a county moving forward.
Great. So if elected, what will you do to create a more cohesive political and day-to-day environment for our county, state, and country?
So I guess I'm not exactly sure what cohesive means in the political sense, but I guess what we do is try and work together with the local governments, the schools. We've gone to having, I think it's quarterly, joint meetings with city councils and with the school board so that we can, identify things. Housing has been one of those. Mental health has been one of those where we have meetings focused on that. So I guess trying to bring together the number of folks that are doing stuff so they can work cooperatively. The previous superintendent, Jerry Rebia, talked a lot about we have to get people away from working in silos, meaning, we've got 5 different groups doing the same thing. And boy, if we could coordinate those efforts, that would really multiply their effectiveness. So, that's something we try to do. We leverage our public and private partnerships as well. We've got initiatives going on with the Community Foundation for a lot of things, including housing, including the hospital expansion. We work with, for instance, MCSA to provide greater opportunities for folks in need of that housing. And also as board members, each of us sits on a variety of boards and committees that don't just function in the county, but we meet regularly with folks from other counties. So counties that we most frequently deal with, Louisa, Scott, Cedar, Jackson, Clinton, the ones that are around us.
Yeah.
And so we can address challenges that, so we're not working in those county size silos, that we can just work together, address things like economic development, healthcare, and the like.
Great. So in conclusion, I guess, what would you like to tell us about yourself as a candidate? We haven't covered anything.
Sure. Well, I guess I see my role in government as being a problem solver. And that doesn't mean I have the answers. But to be a problem solver, I think you have to ask hard questions. I think you have to face hard realities. But then you also have to know how to get the people together who do have the solutions. And so, that's kind of the way I've always seen my role, be it on the school board, be it in my life as a lawyer, where I'm trying to solve different kinds of problems for folks, or also on the county. We know a lot of people. We have a lot of resources in this community. And those people are the ones who are going to be able to solve and address these problems. Getting them together, working with them to facilitate their actions in a single room or a single place is really, I think, how I see myself as a candidate. Of course, I'm always trying to make sure the county does the most with the least amount of resources, because every dollar we spend, we can call it an investment, but it's also taking it from somebody who may not have had that as their primary investment goal. So, that's really what I try to focus on. I try to let those philosophies animate my work as a board member, and that's what I plan to continue doing.
Well, Nathan, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and answer some questions.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right.
Hello, I'm Shane Orr, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization, and our goal is that every eligible voter votes. We encourage informed participation in government, and we help voters understand major public policy issues. Today, I am joined by Sheriff Quinn Reese, who is also a candidate this year for Sheriff of Muscatine County.
Yes, I am.
So welcome.
Pleasure.
So tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run again.
So my name is Quinn Reese. I'm the sheriff here in Muscatine. I've been with the sheriff's office since 1999. Started out working in the courthouse, doing kind of court bailiff stuff. Went out, worked patrol, was a dog handler, worked investigations, did just about everything within the sheriff's office there is to do. I talked to everybody who remembers Lowell Snyder. Lowell was the sheriff back in the late 90s. When I interviewed for this position, or for the deputy spot with the sheriff's office, Lowell asked me that common interview question, of, where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years? And we were sitting in his office, and I told him, I said, a few years, I'm going to be sitting in your chair. And he kind of laughed, and he sat back and said, be careful what you wish for. And here we are, 20 some years later, and I'm sitting in his chair. So I'm holding that promise that I made him, 20 some years ago. A little bit of my background, I'm married, I have 2 children. My wife is a 6th grade elementary school science teacher over in Rockridge, over in Illinois. I've got 2 daughters. My oldest is hopefully going to get into vet school at Iowa State here. Applications are due in 4 days. So we're hoping to get that polished up and sent in. My youngest daughter is a senior here in town, and she's looking to, she's got her CNA now. She's looking to either kind of go into the nursing field or more pharmaceutical range. So we'll see what happens.
Great.
So.
Well, thank you. What would you say are the top 3 issues facing this position?
There is way more than 3. To hit the top, the issues that are facing the county.
Yeah.
And this is across the nation right now. Drugs, mental health, and crime. Trying to solve those in whole or even apart is a significant challenge. We do address each of those separately. Our drug task force here from Muscatine County, they're working, they're 100 miles an hour all day, every day, trying to combat drug sales in and around the county. Mental health wise, we've worked very closely with the judicial system, also with the staff out at the hospital here in town, with a goal of trying to get those with mental health needs as quick as access as we can. We run into issues in our area where we don't have a lot of facilities for mental health needs. So we try to get those placed as quickly as possible. We've worked with the mental health region on transitioning those persons that are getting out of jail, so to speak. And there's a gap between from the time that they're released to the time that they might be able to get into a provider. So we're trying to bridge that gap the best we can. We actually have a gal that comes in several times a week, meets with our nursing staff, tries to address those needs on who's getting out, what do they need, where do they need to go, to try to keep that ball rolling, to keep that process going. Like I said, it's tough in our area because we don't have a lot of facilities for that. We're getting better at it, but trying to hurry that process along. And then just basic crime. Here lately, and I've said this at board meetings, I've said this at every public speaking engagement I have in the last several months. Slow down and pay attention to what you're doing when you're driving. We've had a serious uptick in traffic crashes, fatalities. I think we've had 3 or 4 fatalities just in the last few months. And they're driving related issues, behaviors, people not paying attention, speeding, running stop signs, following too close. Pay attention, please, please, please pay attention. So.
Great. So in your opinion, should local elections, like city, county races be nonpartisan? Should it return to nonpartisanship?
I'm going to speak from the sheriff's side.
Yeah.
I don't get to make policy. I can see where there's an argument either way for those governing bodies positions, whether it be a board of supervisors, state house, Senate, so on and so forth. I mean, you go out and vote for somebody based on your beliefs.
Yeah.
And your beliefs in hoping that person shares the same beliefs that you do and will enact policy or affirm policy that falls in line with your beliefs. In the sheriff's role, my job is pretty laid out in Iowa code on what my roles and responsibilities are. I enforce the law that's on the books that is put out by state legislature. I enforce the state of Iowa Constitution, the Constitution of the United States. I have my personal beliefs, as far as party affiliation, that with what my role entails, doesn't always come in.
Right. Right. Okay. So you mentioned earlier some of what you've considered the top issues facing the issue or facing this position. What about your priorities? Do your priorities align with those issues, or what would you say your priorities are?
My priorities haven't changed since 1999. To provide the best public safety for Muscatine County, for the citizens of Muscatine County, while being a good steward of those tax dollars that we receive from those citizens of Muscatine County. So those are my priorities, and we've done a very good job of managing that, in my opinion. So
great. If elected, what would you do to create a more cohesive day-to-day or political or day-to-day environment for the county?
So we've worked, we put a considerable amount of work, and not just since I've been the sheriff. Sheriff Ryan did the same. Sheriffs throughout history have done their best to get involved in their areas, get involved with different groups. Why I was reviewing this morning the different groups that we're involved with, from Big Brothers Big Sisters, Special Olympics, United Way, Rebuilding Together, Salvation Army. I'm sure I'm missing a few. ISSDA Y Camp. We try to be involved in every group that we can be involved in. And that's more of a non-law enforcement realm, just to get out and engage with people. We've got a number of our guys I've got Sergeant Laza is on the Salvation Army board. Zach Lane is on Crossroads board. I'll find out Monday if I'm on the Rebuilding Together board. I went to last month's meeting. They're going to try and vote on me. Hopefully Monday. We'll see what happens. But trying to extend that involvement out into the community, it makes law enforcement, and really any first responder group, whether it's police department, fire department, makes them more approachable. I walk in any place here in town and I have somebody come up to me and talk to me about something. But getting involved more in the community by doing that stuff, and people see that, and we don't do it for show. I enjoy it. The two that I look forward to the most, the two groups, Special Olympics. I've been involved with Special Olympics since probably 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. We just had the Unified Golf event out at Muni yesterday. We have the softball next week. If anybody wants to stop down and look it up, it's the police department, fire department, and the sheriff's office versus the athletes. Stop down. It's a great time. They'll beat us. We try, and they beat us. But organizations like that, and the ISSDA Y Camp, I've been involved with that for probably 17 years now, 18 years. Worked pretty close with one of the counselors down at Jefferson, and we send two kids to Y Camp on Boone for a week. just having that involvement with those families. I have kids, they're not kids anymore, they're adults, that I sent to Y Camp 15 years ago come up to me in public. And I mean, they're 15 years older and they were 12, 13 at the time. And, you know, hey, you remember you took me to Y Camp? I don't remember you. You're, you know, a foot and a half taller. And, but I mean, that's what it's about. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, in conclusion, is there anything that you'd like us to know that maybe I didn't touch on with your earlier questions?
like I said, I've been serving with the sheriff's office since 1999. I worked for a small town police department for 3 years prior to that. I've worked almost every position within the sheriff's office. I've served, had the great honor of serving as sheriff for the last 3.5 years, and I sincerely look forward to doing it again.
Great.
So,
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to answer some questions for us today.
absolutely. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shane Orr, and I want to welcome you on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County. The League of Women Voters is an organization that's a nonpartisan organization. Our goal is that every eligible voter votes. We encourage informed participation in government, and we help voters understand major public policy issues. Today I'm joined by Scott Sauer, who is an incumbent candidate for Muscatine County Board of Supervisors District 3. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run for the seat that you're running for here in this election.
Well, I'm Scott Sauer. My wife Jane and I have lived in Muscatine County all of our lives. I currently am the county supervisor for District 3, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding these candidate interviews. I'm running for re-election to continue to bring a practical, conservative, common sense approach to Muscatine County government.
Great. Well, thank you. So what are the top 3 issues facing the position you're running for, and how would you address them or resolve some of those?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is the mental health services, and I'll continue to work to provide the necessary services for Muscatine County residents, but it's a very complicated issue, and it's an ongoing issue. If you've followed this, the mental health aspect of the county and the state. Available and affordable housing is very important to Muscatine County growth. As a member of the Board of Supervisors, we continually look for opportunities for community growth.
Right.
Next is something that isn't talked about much, and that is the Mississippi River flooding. It's a very real concern. Over 10 years ago, I was part of the Levee Stakeholders Group working towards a long-term solution for flood protection. And I'm happy to say that work began this year to raise the levee, and I'm pleased to say that that project should be done this year. So
Great.
It's just been such a long process working with the Corps and DNR and all the aspects of that. So made some great strides in that.
Great. Do you think local elections, such as Board of Supervisors and other races, should return to nonpartisanship?
I think the most important aspect of anyone running for a local election is to have background and knowledge of the position being sought. I think that's just number one right off the bat.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Great. What are your top 3 to 5 priorities for the people or voters of Muscatine County?
Well, I believe mental health services are right at the top. It's such a huge issue and such a complicated issue. Community growth and housing is right up there as well. To be able to have the growth necessary to expand the tax base. Aging county bridges is another issue of which the cost of bridge replacement is very expensive, and there's there's more work than there's dollars for. I'll put it that way. Then, of course, quality education is an absolute must, and you just have to continue to strive to have that available to the public, and of course the Mississippi River levee that I spoke earlier of.
Right, right. Thank you. So, if elected, what would you do to create a more cohesive political day-to-day environment for the county, the state, and the country?
That's kind of a complicated question,
Mm-hmm.
but if elected, I look forward to continuing working with all agency and residents of the community and working together for a common goal.
Mm-hmm. Great. Is there anything in conclusion you'd like to tell us about yourself as a candidate that we didn't cover?
Well, as a candidate, I'm a lifetime resident of Muscatine. I have a business background, and I owned and operated Scott's Outdoors for 20 years, and I currently own Big Bay Storage, as well as work for the Muscatine Community School District. I have an agricultural background and operate my farms in Muscatine County. I'm running for re-election to use my diversified management, business, and financial experience to keep Muscatine County with a fiscally sound budget and to continue working at making Muscatine County a strong community and a great place to call home.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for taking a few minutes out of your time to talk to us today and to answer some questions.
Thank you so much, and I would appreciate the vote.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Shane Orr, and I want to welcome you on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. Our goal is that every eligible voter votes. We encourage informed participation in government, and we also help voters understand major public policy issues. Today, I'm joined by Tybee Vanderlinden, who is the current Muscatine County Auditor and is also running for Muscatine County Auditor this year. Welcome, Tybee.
Thank you, Shane.
So tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run again for this position.
Well, I've been in the position about 3.5 years. I've certainly went to a lot of training and been certified for elections.
Yep.
I've gained a lot of knowledge. I want to keep up the good work. I want to keep up the staff that we have. I have a trusted staff. I trust them. They trust me. They too have been trained in elections and all the other duties that happen within the auditor's office. But I just want to continue the good faith and the good work.
Great, great. What would you say are the top 3 issues facing the auditor's office?
Well, I'd say one thing that is something that we want to always have voter education.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. Social media plays into that a big role. And I just want to remind people that when it comes to that, call your local auditor, call the Secretary of State, call someone who deals with elections in Iowa. Maybe what you heard isn't even something to do with Muscatine County or our state. I want to uphold the integrity of a safe and secure election for our county as well as across Iowa. I want people to trust us in that respect. I have that quality staff that have strong moral principles, and I want to follow that through. They're friendly. They're certainly there to help everyone. Remind people that it's one person and one vote, and I can get into a little more explanation on how we keep that security. And I also want to just say, remind people, if you see something, say something. Perhaps what you're seeing at the election polls or within the election process should be brought to our attention. Perhaps it's just that you don't understand how the laws work, and the way we're handling that, the processes is exactly, of course, how we've been trained to do it and how we're upholding the law.
Great, great. So in your opinion, do you think local elections should return to nonpartisanship?
Well, I certainly believe, like for the position I'm in, I represent all people.
Mm-hmm.
I have a good working relationship with both of our political parties that are active in our community. And I do feel like it is a role that because we do have a party, we are on the primary election ballots, of course, with our party. But if we were nonpartisan, perhaps it wouldn't play into some of the comments or concerns that maybe some people have.
Sure, sure. Now, we talked earlier about the issues that you think are facing the position specifically. What are your priorities? Are your priorities kind of aligned with those issues, or do you have other priorities?
Yeah, so knowing that this is a common question, I just want to remind people of voter education. Many of us took civics class back in high school. That might have been just a few days ago. And we just always are trying to teach the voters, the citizens, to learn our processes, to know why we have a primary election, to know when the general elections occur, all the deadlines that occur that my office holds to, and that the voters need to be aware of. I also like to make it a priority whenever I speak to groups to let them know that nothing in our elections is connected to the internet. Yes, there's laptops at the polls, but they are not connected to the internet. They don't even have internet capability. They have a program on them that allows the laptops to identify the voter registration. Are you already registered to vote? Yes, you'll be in our system. But Iowa allows for election day registration. So whether you're voting early in the auditor's office, which is October 16th through November 4th, as well as the Saturday before the election, that would be November 2nd, we're open 8 to 5. But whether you're voting in person before the election or on election day, the concern of internet connectivity is not there. Our machines, the tabulators are not connected to the internet. The touchscreen Disability Act machine that's available to everyone is not connected to the internet, and neither are the laptops. I just always like to also educate everybody on the secure voting processes that we have. Our machines are all tested before they go out to the polls. That means the ballots are run through. That means they're tested for every voting capability that should occur within that machine. Iowa does have voter ID requirements. That's why we ask for a government-issued valid ID. Typically, that's your Iowa driver's license, but a passport or other IDs are acceptable. We also always have ballot reconciliation. That means that every ballot is accounted for. However many ballots went out to the polls, that's how many come back. How many are in our office at all times. We know how many people have voted and how many ballots we still have. Accountability is there. We also have post-election audits where we are, by the Secretary of State, we are issued one precinct to hand count. So I bring in a team, party balance. It's usually 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, or if we know we're going to count a big precinct, we might have 6 or 8. But they take an oath a few days after the canvass of the votes have occurred with the Board of Supervisors, and then they take the oath, and I'm just there to observe, but they open the ballot bag and they count all the ballots that occurred in that precinct on election day, and they count to see that the race that was won is exactly the same tabulations on the machine. And coming up, this will be the 9th election that I have headed in just 3.5 years, and that tabulation has always been exactly perfect. So we're proud of that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
If elected, what would you do to create a more cohesive political or day-to-day environment for the county?
I think mainly, just like I've already mentioned, voter education is always important. I certainly speak to small groups whenever asked. I've spoken to Rotary, Kiwanis, women's groups, a lot of people that just are curious on the voting process. Sometimes we just get in conversations, and as many people as I can involved in the election process, because those voters that are, when you go to vote on election day, those precinct officials that are there, they're your friends, neighbors, and family. They are Muscatine County residents. They have been trained by my office, and they take the job seriously, and they do have training materials to refer back to. They're told to call our office if they have any questions, of course.
Great, great. In conclusion, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself that maybe wasn't covered in one of the other questions?
Sure. I just want people to know that I'm a Muscatine County resident. I have been my whole life. Um, I went to Muscatine Community College as well. In the past, I was an insurance agent in the health and life insurance industry. And I have a husband and 2 sons that I'm proud of and 3 grandchildren now. I volunteer in the community. I'm active at my church. I'm active in an after-school reading program that assists first and second graders, and I've been involved in the Tri-T chapter. I appreciate the good support that I've had from the citizens. I've had, and my local political parties, as I've mentioned. The chairperson for each of those parties has attended our public tests. They offer up the political or the precinct election official names that we may need. Right now we're assigning all those precinct officials for the upcoming election on November 5th. And I thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tybee, for joining us today and answering a few questions. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Wildermuth, and I'm moderating this interview today with John DeBeat, who's running for the state Senate position. And I am representing the Muscatine County League of Women Voters. To tell you a little bit about the League of Women Voters, our mission is to inform the public about government and help voters understand major public issues, public policy issues. So we hope today that you become more informed about the candidates who are running. So our candidate today is John DeBeat. And John, would you tell us about yourself and why you've chosen to run for the election in 2024 as our state Senate representative?
Thank you, Mary. First of all, allow me to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us and giving us this opportunity to share what we stand for with the audience. Well, my name is John DeBeat. I moved to Muscatine, Iowa 29 years ago.
That long ago, wow.
Yeah, it was like yesterday. And I have been basically working and teaching at Muscatine Community College throughout this 29 years. I'm married, my wife is Abir, and I have twin boys, Nabil and Anton, 15 years old. They are sophomore at the high school.
In high school already.
Yeah, it was again like yesterday. Currently also I'm the school board president, but why we decided to run? As a matter of fact, that's a great question. We decided to run for many reasons. Mm-hmm. But if I may talk about some of those reasons here, and maybe later on in different questions we
Sure.
can expand more. In the past 2 years, I noticed the attack on public education in Des Moines. I noticed how my opponent voted, for example, for vouchers, taking money from public education to private schools and parochial schools. I noticed how he voted against the AEA, and breaking the AEA means a lot for us as school district and as educators. I noticed how, for example, he voted for banning books. And as I'm a firm believer that we should have a freedom to read or not to read, but we cannot allow Des Moines to tell us you are allowed to read a book or not allowed a book. I noticed his vote against women's reproductive rights, which also, as a principle, I do believe 100% that any decisions a woman must make, it must make between her and her doctor, and it's not up to a politician to decide from Des Moines what a woman can do or not do. So all these issues, and what I noticed in the past 2 years, led me to believe that it's time for a change. It's time to run and go to Des Moines and be the voice of people, and also preserve our freedom, because I'm running, as a matter of fact, our campaign has 3 values. One of them is freedom, and one of them is accountability, and one of them opportunities. And so that's why we came up with those 3 values, which is, I believe, the value that every Iowan is willing to defend, and every Iowan's willing to stand up and talk vocally about each one of them.
We hope so. So, in the running here, what are the top 3 issues that face you in the Senate position? And then how would you address in resolving those individual issues? So 3 issues.
Yes, the biggest 3 issues for me that we have been talking about is obviously public education is one of them. We want to make sure that the public education is supported by the state. We want to make sure that the AEA is reinstated to help our students who will be our future leaders. So that's one top issue. The second top issue, as I said, women's reproductive right. It's not up to a politician in Des Moines to tell Iowa women how to live her life. It's up to the woman and her doctor and her family. The other issue is working families. We want people to feel that they belong here in Iowa. They are living a kind of life that at least they can cherish and grow a family and live in dignity, right? So those are the top 3 issues. Now, how would we achieve that? Obviously, I'm ready to fight for those 3 issues from day one in Des Moines. I'm ready to work with the other side, the other across the aisle, to work with them on achieving and advocating for those issues. But I'm not willing also to give up my principles. When I'm going there to work very hard to achieve this, I will extend my hand across the aisle to work with everybody. And this is, anybody that knows John DeBeat knows that this is how I work as a person. But at the same time, I'm not willing to give up my principles and every promise that I made throughout this campaign.
Wonderful. So, local elections like school board, city council, and the board of supervisors races seem to have become partisan. And how can we return them to nonpartisan, and how might that occur?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case, because I remember my first run for school board was 9 years ago, or around 10 years ago. And it was different than my last run last November. Let's remember, education is not Republican nor Democrats. So when we put our name and we decide to serve our students and our schools, for example, or our city as a city council, or the supervisors as our county, we should put our county, our city, and our students and schools first, and not our political affiliation. So I do agree with you 100% that we should go back to what it used to be, where, again, when you are elected to serve on school board, your main intention is to work on school issues, and not I'm there because I'm Republican or I'm Democrats or something else. I think it should be this way, and I think it's part of it is, as you said, how can we achieve that? I think it's important to educate people about the role of those elected individuals, whether at school board, at city council members, mayor, and the supervisors. We need to always let them know and guide them to go back to the original principle, the principle of serving people, the principle of serving the community and that board that we are serving on, and not our political affiliation.
Okay, so kind of following up on that a little bit, if elected, what will you do to create a more cohesive political and day-to-day environment for our county, our state, and our country?
That's a great question, Mary. I am a kind of person that like to extend my help and my hands to anyone. I don't look at people based on, or I don't deal with people based on their religion, their color, their political affiliation. I have friends from all over. I do work at the state level. already. I do work at the national level. You know, I serve on Sister Cities International Board of Directors. I represent Iowa also on that board. I work with almost officials, whether it's president, prime ministers, ministers, or ambassadors of almost 140 countries. So I'm trained to do that. I work with all of them regardless where they stand on issues. We have to find a common place where all of us come together as a human being and work for the humanity, for everyone. It is important to say that, you know, when I stand up for something, or when I serve on a board, or when I serve in an office, me as John will be the last that I think of. Because what I think of, how can I serve the people better in that capacity? So it is important. Obviously, I will be communicating with everybody. As a matter of fact, I'm communicating with everybody now.
Right.
I'm meeting with business leaders to listen to them. I'm meeting with teachers to listen to them. I'm meeting with ordinary people to listen to their concerns. I'm meeting with almost everyone to listen to their concerns so that I will be ready on day one to serve the people who are sending me to Des Moines to represent them.
That's great. So, in conclusion here, what again would you say the top 3 to 5 priorities for the people, the voters, are for the people of Muscatine County? As a state senator, what would you represent us on? I know you said education and human rights and all that, but are those the same things? Or
well, I would say those are some, but I can add more.
Great.
But before I talk about that, I want everybody in Muscatine County and also in Senate District 48, because it goes all the way almost to Burlington. I want them to know that I will be their voice. I will never be a rubber stamp for my party, political party. And this is something I made it very clear. I'm not the kind of person who will vote the way my party wants me to vote. I will vote the way my constituents, the people that I represent, how they want me to vote. That's how I will vote. My promise to District 48, including Muscatine County, is that I will meet with everybody monthly. I think people deserve to hear from us every month about what's going on in Des Moines, about the new bills, about different things that we are doing in Des Moines. So my promise to everyone that I will hold 12 meetings over the year, which means 1 meeting a month in one area of District 48, to listen to people, to talk to them, to answer their questions. That is extremely important. It's not like now, right now, we just only see them 1 month in February throughout the whole year. There is no communication with them. My promise to everybody is this. The other thing that I would like to say is I want also the working family, which most of our residents and citizens of Muscatine County and District 48 are working families. I want them to live a nice life. And what I mean by a nice life, I'm not talking about really a very wealthy life, but I think every one of them deserve to be paid a wage that will get them to live that kind of life where they can provide their families, their kids, and their families with what they need, right? So this is another issue that I will definitely take with me to Des Moines. Again, reinstating the unions is very important. Chapter 20. I mean, we know in 2017 they decided to get rid of that. But Chapter 20 is extremely important to the employer as much as to the employee. If we understand what Chapter 20 can achieve for all of us and how Chapter 20 can change Iowa with the bargaining, because, you know, let's face it, employer and employees are in one ship. Either we sink together or we move forward together. And I rather see everybody moving forward together. So this will be another major issue too.
Cool. So in conclusion, what haven't we talked about that you'd like to tell us about yourself as a candidate or an issue?
Well, that's good to say that on November 5th this year, or before if people choose to go and vote early, vote for John DeBeat, because what you are hearing now, what you will see when I'm in Des Moines, I will fight for public education. I will fight for women's reproductive right. I will fight for working families. I will fight for reinstating the Chapter 20, which is good for employers and employees. It's not right when they say, you know what, let's cancel this so that the employers will win. No employer will win if the employees loses. I'm a business major, I teach business, and I work in that field. So we want both to work together and move that ship together. So I call on everyone that knows who John DeBeat is, and those who don't know who I am, to stand up for what we stand for, which is freedom, accountability, and opportunities, which is three pure Iowans, important, issues that we all, and values that we all fight for, and ask them to vote for us so that we can go to Des Moines and make a huge change in Des Moines, and not keep the same status quo and keep that attack on education and on the attack on women's rights and so on.
Well, thank you. It's been our pleasure to interview you today, John, and we wish you the best. I will let you know that these programs that we've taped will be shown on our local cable channels, they'll be on Facebook, and they'll be on YouTube as well, and there'll be a schedule forthcoming. So thank you very much.
Thank you for you too, and for the League of Women Voters.
Thank you.